Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. I have the coffee, as always, green and loving it this morning with Kermit. And we have the Polish Prince of Mondays is with us on a Tuesday, drinking Starbucks iced coffee or using a Starbucks cup to drink some kind of coffee?
It's actually just Guinness.
But actually, that's the best cover ever, probably, for a Guinness, is a Starbucks cup of coffee. That good call, good call. And for the first time ever, not joining from the car is Alex, not mobile today. Alex, what's happening?
Oh, nothing much.
Pipes frozen, huh?
Office pipes are frozen, so we're all working from home.
I mean, you would think, like, at this day and age, especially in that, in our part of the world over here, people would be used to it's freaking cold, gotta do this kind of a deal. But Alan's with us. Don't talk about cold. Alan is gonna be bitching that it's only like 45 over there or something like that. So let's not bring the temperature over here. So bunch of stuff to talk about. We were going to we have some headlines to get to as well, but obviously let's talk about the big news first. This guy coming over. I mean, this kind of like escalated within like an hour or two over here from the rumor coming out. If you went away and came back in an hour, it was done and PSV was announcing it. Mateusz, we'll start with you. What do you make of it? How happy are you? What does it say?
I'm pretty excited. If anything, it provides some more depth, and it's a signing that shows that they're willing to spend a little more money right now than what they possibly thought they would need to spend. I think if Diaz doesn't have that setback, I don't think we see Gakpo in January. I think we would see him in the summer. I think from what I've read, all with everything that they wanted to do was they wanted to sign him in the summer, sort of like the Diaz situation. But then there were other things that happened that made them work a little bit quicker, work a little bit harder. And so I think it's exciting to look at. I don't think they're done. I think there's still at least the midfield that will be coming in January. But I think it's, if anything, I think it's kind of like what Paul was saying yesterday on the podcast was like, I think it just shows that there must be a pretty nice investment coming in, because I think this is just the beginning of a few big signings. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a total of $200 to $300 million spent over the next 6 months with the January window and the summer. I think that is my big prediction, is they're going to be spending between $200 and $300 million overall in the next 6 months. You are muted, Timuchin.
It's too early in the morning, maybe. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it says Alan says like Haman spoke on the radio and said it's as good as done. I mean, when PSV announces it, I pretty much, unless something comes up in the medical or something like that, I kind of consider it a done deal. How about you, Alex? Like, what do you make of the deal overall?
I thought we got him pretty cheap. I thought they would be asking for more, but they sold him for 37, and I was like, man, that's a pretty good deal considering I didn't really actually think we were even going to get him. I thought he would probably go to maybe a team that would provide him maybe a little bit more starting time. You know, he can be the star there. But that deal, like you said, was really quick. And I was surprised PSV put out a statement saying, yep, he's already sold and they're going to go through with it. And I was like, man, that's a good deal. And I agree. I agree with him. If Diaz didn't have that setback or Jota didn't have a setback, we probably wouldn't have got him in January. So
yeah, that was the thing. Like when I was watching him in the World Cup, as great of a player as he is, and I think we're talking with like Angie or like we're talking with somebody about like this kid is going to, like, his price is really going up and stuff, and he's like a good piece to have. But I never considered that we would invest in it because obviously, it was more of the concern was midfield. So we kind of figured, it would be more invested in that. So we were like, yeah, we're probably not going to look at the top of, we already have like depth. But I think you guys have a good point. The Diaz thing could have kind of like forced our hand. And the fact that I think similar to the Diaz ordeal, that's when I think it was Spurs that forced our hand. This time it's more United forcing our hand. Mm-hmm. Scott says a very merry Gakpo morning to all of you. And yes, it is. I mean, this, like I say, came out of nowhere, and it was huge. Saudi here says, "Good day. Optimistic that Julie Moore made it again by landing Gakpo. Maybe a good addition to the team." Up next is Amrabat. Finally, the team new investor or owners that will determine the summer signing. I hope it's Bellingham more than anything else. But so, okay, let's come back to you then. The Polish Prince. You gave great news of a lot of money being spent. Where do you think it's going? And if it's going in January, because here's the thing. I mean, I don't think even if we sign Bellingham, even if something happens, we sign Bellingham in January. I think it would be a deal for him to come and join us in the summer. And this team does need midfielders right now. So what do you see happening? Do you see somebody like Amrabat, for example, that's affordable that can come in right away?
Yeah, I mean, Amrabat is a name. I don't have anyone else specifically that I have read or that I've seen that they're particularly interested in, but we didn't really have any idea about Gakpo until everything came out. So there might be a couple other players that they've got working on, and I think Amrabat is one where he's still in that 30 to 40 million range. I think that's what we're looking at in the midfield is 30 to 40 million range. I can't imagine spending 100 plus on Enzo. It just, I think he's a good player, but I don't know if he's worth as much as that. I'd rather see Liverpool spend 200 million on Bellingham than 100 million on Enzo, if that makes sense. So I would rather just sit back and wait on that Enzo news because I've just read that the latest offer from that Benfica received was about 120 million, and that's more than his release clause. And so I'm thinking, maybe this is just a big brain strategy, and Liverpool's like, yeah, hey, let's take Gakpo from United, and then make someone else pay a lot more for Enzo than what we wanted to pay, and then just kind of like, yeah, sorry, that's it. So I think there's a midfielder or two in that $30-40 million range in January, and then the rest gets spent in the summer.
Yeah, let's face it. I don't know if any of us would even come up with the name Amrabat if it wasn't for the World Cup. Like before the World Cup, his name was not sort of like going around. So it just popped up during the World Cup. And that's my fear with Enzo, Alex, is we've seen, and I was talking about on the podcast yesterday too, we've seen so many guys that kind of do well in the World Cup, go for a big contract, and then just go back to their regular selves before the World Cup. It just seems way too freaking high for Enzo, and I would think as much as optimistic as Mateusz is, I don't see Enzo and Bellingham, and kind of like what Mateusz said, if I had to choose one, I'd rather pay 150 200 to Bellingham over 100 120 to Enzo. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's more along the lines. I think he's kind of like James Rodriguez. I really think so, from Colombia. I think he's going to be like one of those players that shows up in the Copa America or whenever he plays for Argentina. But when it comes to club level, he's just kind of he's decent. He'll go for a lot of money, but I think he'll be like decent club level because, like you said, before the World Cup, I mean, nobody really even knew who this kid was. I mean, maybe Benfica fans knew, but I mean, I don't even remember. I know when we played Benfica, all I remember was Darwin Nunez. I don't remember Enzo that much. I don't even remember the name.
Was he there at the time? Did he play against us in the Champions League?
I think he was. I assume he was because Benfica likes to buy low, so it likes to buy young players. And develop them. So I assume he's been there for at least a little bit. If I remember right, I think he was an academy player at Benfica, and then he eventually worked his way into the first team. So, I mean, I have to look back at that, but I think that's what it was.
So let me ask you guys this. Mateusz, because we talked about this during the World Cup. The antics during the World Cup, does that cloud your judgments in any way? It does for me. That's why I'm wondering, because we talked about this on one of the morning shows. Does it affect like how you kind of view the player overall value and stuff? Without maybe subconsciously in a way, but
absolutely, a little piece of it. I think part of it might be more exaggerated given the level of the tournament. I think the World Cup really brings out the most kind of that exaggeration and those antics, especially if you're around a team that has other characters that do the same thing. We see clubs like Italy and Portugal and Argentina and Brazil kind of feed off of each other's exaggeration. And I think part of it is just that with the stage that it's on, they're just trying to do what they think is best to move forward. So I think a little bit of it does get clouded. I think he's still a great player. But I'm probably the most vocal on our Discord over the last couple of years about how annoying it is to see Jota fall over, all the time, and how sometimes I get frustrated with over the past years when you would see players just fall over, because Liverpool doesn't really have that kind of, they don't have those kinds of guys apart from a couple instances here and there. So I don't necessarily like Enzo for those reasons, but I do think he's a fantastic player, and maybe it's something that would change at the club level if he were to come over.
I don't know, because Jota, yeah, like when he goes to I think it's kind of like the Portuguese way, if you will. No offense to the Portuguese fans, or like sometimes like South American players too. They kind of do tend to embellish a lot more. But now you see it like throughout Europe. Heck, I mean, now you see it's all over American sports over here too. I mean, you see huge offensive linemen, like three of us combined kind of dudes flop around like they got hit by a tank. So I think we're seeing it all over the place now. But how about you, Alex? Does like the player we saw during the World Cup, and you can call it shithousery, I just call it plain old douchey behavior on the field. Like, does that affect how you view him at all as a player overall?
I mean, I think kinda. I don't want him to be like, if we did get him and he came in, I don't want it to be a whole, how Darwin Nunez started his career at Liverpool, gets sent off for headbutting somebody or doing something even more mad, maybe punching him in the face or something like that. Because this is a league where players like to get under other players' skin during a match, and they do it at every single moment during the game, whether it's on a corner and they might start pushing around and you don't like it. No, they find out you don't like it, so they're going to do it. And I think that might get to him if he goes to the Premier League, and we can't really afford to have another one, especially if we have Darwin Nunez, who's already a bit fiery when it comes to situations like that. So, I mean, I think Enzo would be great if he did come, but I'm with you. I think I would rather see Bellingham with Liverpool than Enzo.
Yeah, so let's look at some of the other rumors of going around. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how reliable these will be, because yesterday when you were looking at these, it was Gakpo to United, pretty much almost a done deal. It was set to be your boy over here, Mudryk, is possibly headed to Arsenal. I know he actually even on Instagram or somewhere posted a picture of him watching the Arsenal game and stuff like that. So giving signals, because I think the initial Arsenal bid was too low for Shakhtar. So that's basically the player's way of saying, make it happen, work it out kind of deal. What do you make of it? I mean, when I saw this, I still felt, I think I would rather have Gakpo over Mudryk. Where are you at with that? I mean, obviously the price tag makes a big difference too, but
You asking me or
yeah.
Yeah.
He's your boy. You were all over him when we were
Well-
a couple of months ago, so that's why I'm going with that.
Oh, I thought, okay, maybe you're just making the Slavic connection. I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. Yeah, I really like Mudryk. I don't know if, again, I think it's a price tag situation. If we're looking and comparing Gakpo with Mudryk and seeing that Gakpo we could get him for half the price of Mudryk, I think Gakpo is, I prefer more. If they were the same price, I think I would prefer Mudryk a little more, because I think he can play across the front three a little better than Gakpo. I know Gakpo's primarily left wing, but he has made some stints in the center on the right wing. But I think Mudryk is really good at playing all across the front, and then he's also a midfielder though, so he can play 4 or 5 positions naturally. I think he's gonna be a great fit for Arsenal, because they've got that free flowing kind of football that you can kind of just, if you have the right pieces, you can just stick guys in certain spots and they'll make it work. And I think it's a good signing for them. They're not, obviously he's Ukrainian, but I think of, Andrei Arshavin when he was at Arsenal. He was pretty good. He had that one game against us that we'll never forget.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
yeah. So it's one of those situations. I think it's a good signing for them up to a certain point. I think anything money related, when it comes to signings, you have to look at it with the amount of investment it takes over the course of their career, right? If you make an $8 million bid for Andy Robertson from Hull City, and he turns out to be one of the greatest left backs in Premier League history and was some of the best amazing business in the world. If you spend, $70 million on Bruno Fernandes, he is pretty good, but over the course of career, we'll see how it pans out. It might not be as good of an investment. So I think if Mudryk is coming over for about 60 to 70 million, I don't think it's too bad. But we'll just have to see if it's worth that much. But of course, that's what you would say with any signing, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like you never know if a player is going to fit the system and be able to adjust. Because, I felt when we first signed Diaz, kind of like what you're saying, similar to Mudryk, like he was more of like a free-flowing, like he would suddenly end up on the right wing and stuff and was not as positionally disciplined. But over time, that has changed. But not every player can make that change. I basically, it's similar to the draft over here, right? Like after the draft days, people are like, that's a B plus, that's an A minus. It's kind of like a crapshoot. You have some given info and you're kind of trying to like speculate off of that, but you kind of like never know for sure. And I think that's why I thought the Gakpo deal was especially good due to his versatility, age, and more than that, the value, like the amount of money like spent on it as well. Alan says Van Dijk made a crucial phone call. I like when like these rumors come out though, like the Gakpo to convince his Dutch teammate. I'm sure this was when Van Dijk said what he said after the game and almost like hinting somebody was coming. I honestly, even then, when I was thinking, who can it be from the Dutch team? I did not think of Gakpo. I was like, maybe Megan's dreams are coming true and Memphis is coming finally or something like that is what I was thinking. I never thought it would be Gakpo, but so let's get to yesterday, which honestly, like, without not having like much news, I assume transfer wise, this would be like the main topic, but second half of the show over here, let's go to yesterday's games. Alex, anything that catches your eye in terms of scores or performances yesterday that makes you say that was big?
Like,
big in a good way, big in a bad way, you pick it. I guess something that kind of caught your eye out of all the scores yesterday, because I think these next 2 weeks are going to be kind of interesting because we all, when we look at fixtures, we all kind of like take the team we knew before the World Cup and kind of project and speculate that way. And it was interesting to see which teams came back, how it's going to go over the next 10 days or so. Are teams going to be the same as they were, or are we going to kind of like see a totally different team? So what did you like make out of the results yesterday?
Well, yesterday, obviously, I thought Liverpool played really well. I thought we looked really good yesterday. It looked like we were back. It looked like we were kind of back, if that makes sense to you. I think we looked really good. Our passing was good. I think Fabinho looked, he didn't look great. I think he looked good to maybe like decent, but I think he put some good tackles in, made some crisp passing. I don't know if you guys were noticing, but he even was trying to do the old stuff he used to do, chipping it over the back line and see if somebody can get on the other end of the ball. And he did that a couple of times yesterday, and so did Hendo. I think surprising that from yesterday, like surprisingly bad. I would say probably, well, first of all, Crystal Palace getting 2 red cards. That was pretty that was pretty bad. And then Everton losing to Wolves at home. That I know we were talking about Moyes is living in like hot water right now, but like Frank is way below him, like drowning in it. So I I would be surprised if Everton lose their next game to whoever it is. I would be surprised if Frank is still there.
That's so sad. That's so sad. And that was like bad in such a good way. Yeah, I was because I mean, first of all, it's Wolves. It's a team that you're kind of like going against when it comes to relegation battle. I think down the road, based on how Wolves play, and that's what I wanted to see, like how teams like Wolves and Crystal Palace and stuff are going to come back from the break. Obviously, Crystal Palace bombed pretty good, but how about you, Matush? Anything that catches your eye from yesterday and makes you say, things that make you go,
I think we covered the Wolves situation, the Palace situation. The thing that's really interesting about some of those lower table teams that didn't have as many guys leave for the World Cup, so they in theory had a better opportunity to be better rested and have better game plan and play better overall. So it's unfortunate that I'm sure managers are just absolutely livid considering what happened and how much time they had to work on the next game coming up. So one, I guess, that I'll throw out there is Leicester, for the fact that they were looking pretty good coming into the World Cup. They had that stretch where they had 4 or 5 clean sheets, and they were looking like the mid-table team, mid to 6th place team that they should be. And then to see the way that they just got absolutely manhandled by Newcastle was a little shocking. And I think maybe part of it is we need to give Newcastle more credit. I think they are as good as advertised. I think they will end in that top 4. They will clinch a Champions League spot this year. I think they finish 3rd. I'm being incredibly optimistic because I think Liverpool makes a jump and I think Arsenal tumbles. And I think, I shouldn't say Arsenal tumbles, because given yesterday how they responded against West Ham after the first half was great, even though, they controlled the whole game. But there was an opportunity there where after West Ham scored the penalty that Arsenal would capitulate and that they wouldn't be able to bounce back after the first half. And the way that they did and played the way they did, it was really impressive. So I think just in my heart, I want them to tumble, and I want Liverpool to make the most miraculous run and win the league, blah, 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 just like any of us. But I think in my head, I think I still see City atop. I think I see City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool is what I see for the top 4.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. By the way, Everton's next game is away to City. So I don't know if your prediction is true, Alex.
Good luck, Frank.
And then they play Brighton at home. And then they go away to United for the FA Cup. So I don't know if he's going to end up seeing Southampton game on January 14th. But that's a good point about Newcastle. And so Newcastle and Arsenal, Alex, where are you at with them? If you ended the season right now, just like Matush did, who would be your top 4?
Well, I think Liverpool sneaks in. If there's anybody that's a weak link in the top 4 right now, it's probably Spurs. And it doesn't look like Spurs are going to get anybody in January. That they're not, they're not rumored with anybody. And, one of my best friends is a Spurs fan. He told me, I asked him yesterday, I'm like, do you think you're going to get anybody? He's like, probably not. So, I think Spurs are probably the weak link, so that 4th spot's probably key. I can see Arsenal tumbling down, but I don't think they tumble down out of the top 4. So I agree. I think it's City, Arsenal. I think Liverpool gets 3rd and Newcastle gets 4th.
So why do you guys think we still? Matush, are you still waiting for the European, the schedule to get trickier? For Arsenal to start tumbling? Because yesterday was for a second. You kind of felt like they maybe do not have that goal scorer. That free flow opens up things, and mind you, West Ham does not look good at all. Is that what basically makes you think they're going to tumble, or
no?
Because they're Arsenal.
I think it comes down to youth for me. When you look at that team, there is only arguably one guy who has enough experience at the club level, and as in terms of the duration of how long he's played club football, it's probably Xhaka. Other than that, they've got one of the youngest teams in the entire Premier League. I think that at some point there will be, mentally it can be, the season can be very draining. And I guess depending on how the other outcomes go in the other competitions, that could either hurt them mentally or help them mentally. But I think because of their youth, there is a chance where there's a moment where there's a stretch where there's maybe just a month where things kind of go a little bit sour, a little bit rocky. And it's in that month where the experience of City was like, yeah, all right, well, this is the time now where we win every game 4-0 and we make that leap up to first. And I think all it takes is just those 3 to 4 weeks where there's just a little bit of rockiness and a little bit of that inexperience. Maybe if they see themselves atop with like 8 games to go, might get a little too greedy, might get a little too comfortable, and might start to sit back a little too much. And that youth can come out of like, yeah, we're atop, we're going to win this, no problem. And then that's when you start to see these results going the other way. And I think it's just thinking about in terms of any kind of sports situation, I feel like anytime there's a lot of youth involved, you still have to be cautious about how much faith you put into that team.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because I know, we always talk about like teams that make a good run first time around, just miss out, and then next year, I mean, it happened to us, right? And then you come back like a lot stronger because there's a lot that goes into it. I think if the point difference is the way it is, that kind of helps Arsenal, that youth have a clearer mind. But the moment, I think you're right, the moment it goes down to 2 points, 3 points or something like that, that doubt creeps in, the pressure creeps in, and that can like really affect them. So I can see that. So, okay, well, apparently we don't have to wait till January 1st for transfers. Normally we would think, you would have to, right? But I guess we don't. So let me ask you, we'll start with you, Alex. By the time we see you again on a morning show, which will be next Tuesday probably, do we have another name that we're talking about like we did with Gakpo today, or just a lot more fresher rumors?
I feel like, probably be rumors, but I think if it's rumors, I think it's going to be somebody from the Brighton camp, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a midfielder from Brighton.
I'd be okay with that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Brighton is they're a selling club too. So like if you meet, they're a lot like PSV or Ajax or anybody like that, you meet their price, they probably will sell. So, and I think that's what it's going to come down to is, Concedo. I mean, you can literally just take your pick of the midfielders at Brighton of who you want to buy, and they will probably sell them. So I think that will probably be the talking point maybe next week. So.
The Polish Prince, before you make a Monday Polish Prince appearance, do we have something happening then? Are we talking about a new player, or we're just getting more rumors as we get closer? I mean, that will be in January, so it could be official at that point.
Yeah, I think there will be 4 or 5 names at that point that we're going to be talking about because of all of the stuff that's going to be thrown around. I hope it's someone name-wise like Amrabat, so that Galley and Bickler can, get past their American minds to be able to pronounce these names that really aren't that hard to pronounce in the first place. It's not like there's a ton of vowels and consonants. It's Amrabat. Like, it's not that hard. So
I even made it Americanized for them. Like I did the Amrabats, like instead of the Amrabats,
So yeah, that's what I hope for is someone with a crazy name so that Galley and Bickler are forced to learn it by time for the Monday podcast.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, they need time. They need practice. I love seeing like by Casero and Lona youngster back, Ellen says. I mean, I'd be all over that, but I know Brighton would be all over that. And we're talking like a high price tag, which I would not mind because you're getting a Premier League proven midfielder as opposed to rolling the dice for. I mean, I'd rather do that deal 60, 80 or whatever for Casero, who we've seen in the Premier League, as opposed to roll the dice on like Enzo for like 120 or something like that. So it's a safer bet, it feels like. But it's go ahead.
In terms of youngsters, and going back to yesterday, I think Bajcetic needs to cool it down a little bit because if he continues to play really well, they're going to look at it and go, "What? We don't need another midfielder. Look at this kid. He's right here. We've had him all along."
It's like a new signing.
Exactly.
I really like that kid, by the way. Once he
Mhm.
grows some muscle over here, they gotta feed that kid.
He
Because
looks
once
so
he gets a
young.
bit more muscle, I think as a defensive midfielder, he is really good. I think Megan was talking about in Discord channel that he was a center back at one point, and yeah, the short center back. Oh, those were the days where you could be short and play center back. Well, you played sweeper, you didn't play center back. These days, unless you're United, nobody buys short center backs, unfortunately. But well, gentlemen, thanks a lot as always. Thanks to all those joining us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Rami, our very own Egyptian king, and then we'll probably talk about some more rumors by then. Hey, you never know. We might be talking about a new signing as well. So have a great Tuesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.